here that will show you some of what we see in the city housing landscape. There are around 4.5 million housing
always housing.
On the left, this box is proportional, a little bit smaller, 1.1 million owner-occupied homes. On the right, the renter-occupied homes representing about 2.3 million in the city. So let's dive into that box on the right first. This is the rental market. About half of all apartments are being rented at market rate. That means whatever the owner wants to charge. Slightly fewer than 1 million apartments are in the rent stabilized category, with a limit on how much the rent can be increased each year. The mayor has the most control over those units because the mayor appoints the members of the Rent Guidelines Board, which sets the annual increase. And then rounding out the rental side,
housing for migrants and breeders.
Public housing, 167,000 units of public housing. And there are still about 24,000 New Yorkers with units under rent control, probably an apartment passed down from generation to generation with an extremely low rent.
To breeder.
The other side of the chart here, the owner-occupied homes. There are hundreds of thousands of co-ops and condos, and then the big other category here, we believe, is mostly single-family homes. Each one of these groups and the subgroups have their own interests, their own priorities. All of these groups coming to the candidates for mayor saying, what are you going to do for me? We spoke with Crain's New York reporter Nick Garber. Here's what he says about the role that housing is going to play in this race for mayor.
There's a lot of talk from all the candidates about the need to build more housing in order to bring down rents or at least stabilize them. There is a little diversion between the candidates about how to handle rent stabilized housing. There's some difference of opinion about whether rents should be freezed by the Rent Guidelines Board, which is something that mayors control, or whether they should be allowed to continue to increase so that landlords have the money to pay for renovations.
So here's the breakdown of some of the costs, borough by borough here. If you're someone paying market rent, those numbers are getting higher. According to StreetEasy, the median asking rent for a one-bedroom in Manhattan was $4,400 a month in February. Brooklyn, $3,400, $3,000 in Queens, about $2,700 in the Bronx and Staten Island. Maybe you're someone who is tired of paying rent and you think you want to get into being a homeowner in Manhattan. The median asking price for a home is now $1.5 million. It's $1.1 million in the most recent count in Brooklyn. Candidate after candidate will be talking about affordable housing. Most experts say the high cost of housing comes down simply to supply and demand. Here on this chart, the orange shows the number of jobs in the city. The blue shows the number of housing units. Quite simply, you see the blue is not keeping up. We have seen growth in jobs. We haven't seen proportional growth in the number of housing units, and that means competing with each other for the available housing. And ultimately, that means some people are choosing to leave the city. According to the Citizens Budget Commission, the high cost of housing contributes to out-migration. When people leave, they end up paying taxes elsewhere. And ultimately, for the city, that means we will have fewer elected representatives in Washington. We'll continue our
this fucking whore city.
Issues in the weeks ahead, and for the latest political news, log into our website, ny1.com.
New York City has become a leper's colony.
Spectrum News app.
Tell the truth, Pat. You don't even